Today, we're going to be tying up a micro popper. To start, we'll grab some black thread. Here I'm using 140 UTC and secure it tightly to our hook shank. Snip your excess free and continue wrapping backwards towards the bend of our hook. At which point, we'll grab some mule deer hair. Snip free a small clump about the size of a pencil and brush it out to remove any short strands along with the insulating fur. Before inserting it into a hair stacker with the tips facing down, stack it up and carefully remove them from the hair stacker. At which point, we'll trim up the ends so that the hairs are all even and to remove some bulk. Before securing them to the back of the fly, doing so by taking a couple loose wraps before pulling our thread tightly downwards and taking a wrap behind it to help ensure that our tail stays propped up, at which point we can secure everything tightly in place, taking thread wraps around it while carefully maneuvering your thread so you don't trap any in place. Pull the fibers backwards, wrapping back on them slightly to help brush them back. At which point, we'll grab some more mule deer hair, snip a small clump free, brushing it out, and inserting into a hair stacker, this time with the trimmed ends facing down. Stack it up, remove it from your hair stacker, and trim away the tips to remove some bulk and only leaving the thicker, hollow fibers underneath. At which point, we'll place a clump on top of our hook shank, taking a couple loose thread wraps around it, before pulling down our thread tightly and releasing it to spin it around the hook, taking a couple additional wraps to ensure it stays locked tightly in place, and continue wrapping your thread forward, being careful not to trap any underneath, before brushing it backwards and creating a small thread dam in front of it to help brush it back. With this complete, we'll continue with some more mule deer hair, snipping it free, brushing it out, and stacking it up. Before removing it from the hair stacker and trimming up the ends, just as we did before. Place it on top and take a couple loose thread wraps around it before tightening it down and spinning it around our hook. Secure it tightly in place and begin weaving your thread forward. Before pulling everything back and creating another thread dam. Once complete, we'll stack up some more deer hair and repeat the process once more, trimming up our clump and placing it over the hook shank before taking a couple loops around it and tightening it down once more. With this complete, we'll brush everything back, taking a few thread wraps in front of it. And laying down a thread base that we'll use in our next step. Whip finish to secure it tightly in place. Snip your thread free and grab some booby eyes. Here I'm using green. We'll grab a single piece and measure it to cover up the gap between our mule deer hair and the hook eye. Trim it to length, piercing it through the middle to make our next step a little bit easier. We'll then add some super glue to the section of our fly just in front of our hair, panning it all the way around. Before grabbing our foam and twisting it over the hook eye. The super glue will help hold it in place so it doesn't spin around the hook shank. Next, we'll start to trim up some of this mess. You can use scissors, as I will be here, or you can give it a cleaner look using a razor blade. I just don't have any sharp ones left, and keep forgetting to order them. However, scissors work just fine. The trick to trimming these is to go slow, only taking off a bit at a time. We'll take our first pass to remove the bulk of the deer hair so we can get a better idea for the shape we're going for. Here, we'll be making a conical shape that tapers slightly towards the tail. To achieve this, we'll just rest our scissors on the foam, angling it downwards towards our tail, and trimming it up slowly so you don't bite too deeply into the deer hair. I like to start with a larger pair of trimmers before swapping it out to a smaller one to clean up the edges, starting around the foam. Before moving backward and trimming up the tail, removing some of the excess that's harder to reach with our longer scissors. Before switching back out to our larger pair of scissors and carefully trimming up the shape so it's nice and even. Once happy, we'll grab some eyes. Here I'm using living eyes in the color earth. Add some super glue to the side of our foam. Before placing an eye over the top of it and pushing it down till it's fixed tightly in place. Repeat this step to the other side. And this is a cool little popper that I've never actually fished before, but was recently requested to tie it, and I thought it was a pretty cool pattern. So thank you for watching. Subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next one.